Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always up for a good deep dive,
Yeah.
especially into a world as intricate as this one.
This time we're stepping into Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses. Got some captivating excerpts here. Let's see what secrets we can uncover.
From what I've seen, this world is just brimming with magic and danger. And Maas, she has this way of pulling you in from the very first page.
Absolutely.
Huh.
And it all starts with Farah, our protagonist. She's thrust into this extraordinary situation, but she's no damsel in distress.
Oh, not at all. She's resourceful, determined. Even when faced with poverty and danger, she's the one putting her family first.
Exactly. She's got this fierce protective streak. But then there's this other side to her, this artistic side. You can tell how much she yearns for beauty, for a chance to express herself.
You see it in how she observes the world, finds solace in nature, even when she's hunting to survive. It's like that part of her recognizes something in Prythian, almost like it's calling to her.
It's like a hidden part of her that refuses to be silenced. And speaking of family dynamics, her relationship with Nesta and Elaine adds another fascinating layer to the story. Talk about three very different personalities.
They are like night and day, aren't they? Nesta, the eldest, she's cold, almost bitter. You get the sense she blames Fair for their fall from grace.
It's like she can't let go of the past.
Right. And then there's Elaine, the younger sister. She seems to be caught in the middle, trying to find her own way between these two very strong personalities.
Makes you wonder how their past, especially the loss of their fortune, shaped them into such different people.
It's a testament to how individual responses to trauma can be. And amidst all of this, you have Fair, the one holding it all together, putting her life on the line to keep her family afloat.
Don't forget, she's literally going into those woods, facing down who knows what, just to put food on the table.
Exactly. And then she gives away that hard-earned money just to ensure their survival. Talk about selflessness.
It really highlights the harsh reality of their world, wouldn't you say? This isn't some grand adventure for Fair. It's survival.
Absolutely. But then there's that looming presence of the wall, that ever-present reminder of the world beyond their own.
And the history behind it. Centuries of conflict, the uneasy truce between humans and fae. It sets the stage for a powder keg of tension.
That wall is more than just a physical barrier, isn't it? It represents this deep-seated fear, the mistrust between two worlds that can't seem to coexist.
And then there's that chilling moment when Fair encounters the fairy beast in her own home.
It's a turning point, for sure. Suddenly, the danger becomes very real, very personal. And how does Fair react? She doesn't hesitate, not for a second.
Her first instinct is to protect her family, even if it means stepping into the unknown.
Even if it means stepping into Prythian.
It's a decision that changes everything.
It's remarkable, though, isn't it, how, despite her fear, Fair starts to see the beauty of Prythian.
Almost like she's seeing the world in color for the first time.
Exactly. Those paintings in the manor, the glimpses they offer into this magical realm, they chip away at her defenses.
Especially that description of the flower painting. The way it reawakens something in her.
It reminds her of a passion almost extinguished by the harsh realities of her life, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's like Prythian itself is calling to her artistic soul. And that contrast, the vibrancy of the fairy realm against the bleakness of her past.
Especially after losing her mother at such a young age.
It makes you understand why she'd be drawn to this world, even with all its dangers.
It challenges our perceptions, doesn't it? Initially, she sees Prythian through this lens of fear, shaped by human prejudice.
And that terrifying encounter with the beast, of course.
Right. But as she experiences life in the Spring Court, her perspective starts to shift.
She realizes there's more to this world than meets the eye.
The paintings, they're not just decoration. They hold clues to the history of Prythian, whispering tales of the other courts.
Like that massive mural depicting all of Prythian. It's practically a roadmap.
Exactly. Each court summer, autumn, winter, night, dawn, day, they all have their own distinct personalities, their own potential dangers.
But it also highlights how interconnected they are.
And how precarious the balance of power is, especially with the blight looming over everything.
Which makes Lucian's cryptic warnings about the dangers lurking beyond the manor all the more ominous.
That sense of urgency, the need to be prepared.
Especially with the blight spreading.
That blight becomes this ever-present threat, a constant reminder that even this magical world is vulnerable.
It explains the desperation in Tamlin's actions, doesn't it?
He knows something's coming, and he's desperate to field Fair from it.
And then, bam, we're thrown headfirst into Calanmai.
That intoxicating, terrifying fairy celebration.
Talk about a whirlwind. The drums, the bonfires, that potent fairy wine.
It's a celebration of life, of the land itself, deeply rooted in Fae tradition.
But there's an underlying current of danger, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This is a time when the veil between the realms is at its thinnest.
We see a different side to Tamlin. A raw, untamed power that's both exhilarating and terrifying.
And then there's that encounter with the Aether.
Now that was the stuff of nightmares. Even the High Fae seemed terrified. What is that thing?
The Aether embodies the untamed chaos lurking beneath the surface.
It's like a primal force. Even powerful Fae fear it.
It's a reminder that magic, especially Fae magic, comes at a price.
There's always a darkness, an untamed element.
And in many ways, the Aether represents Amarantha's reign, the fear that has seeped into every corner of Prythian.
Speaking of Amarantha, she's like a puppet master, isn't she? Pulling the strings from the shadows.
She's the looming threat, the antagonist who holds the High Lords captive to her will.
Including Tamlin.
Even him. The excerpts only give us glimpses of her curse, but it's clear the stakes are incredibly high.
And it makes Fair's return to the human realm all the more heartbreaking.
She's back with her family, but at what cost? They don't even recognize her.
That's got to be the worst, right?
It's a bitter pill to swallow. To be so close, yet completely cut off. And that guilt, knowing Tamlin had to use his magic to shield her family from Amarantha's wrath.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
And then there's the realization that Tamlin is trapped.
Damned if he lets her stay, damned if he lets her go.
That's the weight of his sacrifice. He made a bargain to keep her safe, even if it meant losing her.
But it gets worse. There are others.
Other Fae who've been captured, facing a horrific fate if Fair doesn't return to Prythian.
It's a lose-lose situation.
And yet, she chooses to go back.
It's Alice who helps her, right? The one who remembers.
Alice defies Amarantha to help Fair cross the wall. It's a testament to the fact that love, true loyalty, can exist even in the darkest of circumstances.
She's risking everything.
She is. But returning to Prythian, this time it's not the spring court that awaits Fair.
It's Amarantha's court.
And let me tell you, it's a rude awakening.
It's like night and day compared to the spring court. The cruelty, the casual way Amarantha wields power.
It's chilling. The throne room, those gruesome displays, and Rhysand, his nonchalance, the way he inflicts pain without a flicker of remorse.
He's a scary one.
It creates this atmosphere of oppression, of walking on eggshells, and in the middle of it all is Fair, a human girl thrust into a nightmare.
And those trials. It's like psychological torture disguised as entertainment. The inscription puzzle, that's spiked great.
They're designed to break her, to strip away her compassion, her hope.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because those trials also reveal a different side to Rhysand.
The High Lord of the Night Court.
He's an enigma. One minute he's ruthless, the next there's this flicker of something else in his eyes.
Especially when he looks at Fair.
Like he sees something of himself in her.
It's that complexity that makes him so compelling. He's forced to play Amarantha's loyal subject.
But you can tell there's more going on beneath the surface.
We get these glimpses into his past, the suffering he's endured at Amarantha's hands.
And that moment when Farah sees the world through his eyes.
It hints at a shared understanding, a connection forged in trauma.
And then, in the middle of this horrific trial, Farah makes a choice.
She chooses to save the young fairy girl.
Knowing it could cost her everything.
It's a testament to her character, her compassion, even in the face of such depravity.
It's a turning point in the story.
It's a turning point for Fair. And it reveals something incredibly significant about Rhysand.
Because he's desperate for her to survive.
He pleads with her, doesn't he? That carefully constructed facade cracks.
It makes you wonder, what does he see in her?
Perhaps a reflection of himself. Someone who understands that unbearable weight, the burden of surviving true darkness.
Or maybe, just maybe, he sees something more.
Something worth fighting for, in a world where hope can be a dangerous thing.
It's like even in the darkest depths, a single act of compassion can ignite a flame. But those flames,
they cast long shadows.
Farah's actions have consequences.
Choosing to act, to fight for what's right, always does. It exposes her, her empathy, in a world that seems determined to exploit that.
And what about Rhysand?
It's a catalyst, wouldn't you say? Like he's been awakened, reminded of who he once was, who he could be again.
And Farah, she finds a strength she never knew she possessed. Enough to break free from Amarantha's control during that final trial.
Fueled by her love for Tamlin.
It's a raw, primal moment.
But victory, as we know, rarely comes without a price.
That reunion with Tamlin.
Bittersweet.
They're free from Amarantha, but...
The scars run deep.
Tamlin, he's different, withdrawn.
Haunted.
And Farah, she has to reconcile the man before her with the memories of the man she thought she knew.
She's not the same girl who first crossed into Prythian.
She stared into the abyss.
And found the strength to fight back.
But those battles leave their mark.
How can she go back? Knowing what she knows now.
That's the question, isn't it? How do you move forward after experiencing something like that?
Will she allow the darkness to harden her?
Yeah.
Or will she hold on to that spark? That fierce love that allowed her to survive?
And then there's that final scene.
Rhysand,
That look on his face when he sees Farah.
like a promise.
We get this feeling that their story is far from over.
Their connection runs deeper now, forged in shared experience.
And the way he warns her about the human heart.
Be glad of your human heart, Fair. Pity those who don't feel anything at all.
Chilling.
Isn't it? It's a reminder that empathy, that capacity for love and deep feeling, is both a blessing and a curse in this world.
Especially in a world like Prythian.
Rhysand has seen the darkest depths of human and fae nature. He recognizes that power and the vulnerability that comes with a heart like Fair's.
It's a warning, for sure. But perhaps also
A challenge.
to hold on to that empathy. To prove that even in the face of unimaginable cruelty, compassion can still exist.
And thrive.
These excerpts have given us a glimpse into something truly captivating. But it's clear we're only just scratching the surface.
This is a world of intricate alliances, of betrayals and sacrifices, and a love that defies all odds.
It's a world that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page.
Leaving you with more questions than answers.
What will become of Farah and Tamlin? What about Rhysand? And what other secrets does Prythian hold?
We can only wait and see.
This has been an incredible deep dive, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely captivating.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new world. Until then, happy reading, everyone.